Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Quarter of the season in the books, Andy. Well, not really, but pretty much. We have 4 weeks complete. It used to be the true.
Does that bother you now? It bothers me.
1 quarter poll. Yeah, no, absolutely.
I know we still had 17 weeks, but there wasn't, everybody did have their 4 games. And it's not like we had week 4 buys, did we? I don't believe so. You truly did have that 3.
We know that teams used to look at it literally as how do we play through the first quarter of our season? They literally looked at each 4 games as sort of a quarter. Now it's all gunked up because there's 17 games. But you know what it is, man? It is October, which is cool.
October?
It's Brocktober. It's who's the other guy?
It's Drew Locktober.
Locktober, yeah. It's
yes.
Up in Locktober. No, it's October, which means Fall Classic is in the air. And I got to hear about your trip to see your Twinkies who snapped.
Yeah, just
ignominious. What I don't know, whatever that word is. A pretty not awesome streak of not advancing in the playoffs, going back a million years. Congratulations to you and the Twinks.
I was struggling to explain this to my 12-year-old, because we'll say stuff, and I don't think she has a good enough grip on time. Oh yeah, it was when I was young. It's no, this was not when you were young. You're 12. I've been married. I will have been married 15 years next year in June. I said the last game the Twins won in the playoffs, I watched in the commons room at the dorms in South Dakota State. I had not even met your mother. We were not dating. We're not engaged. I'm I had no idea. I don't even know who I was dating at that point. Probably the crazy one before that. But it's been a long time. And yes, thanks to our friends at Ticketmaster. It's not like I gave them a lot of money yesterday, because you don't make a lot when the tickets are just dirt cheap. That's half the reason I went, was oh my God, there's $6 tickets. I mean, I splurged for $20 tickets just to sit in it doesn't matter how high up you are. If you're in the front row, it doesn't matter. You're right on top of it. That's kind of what I like to do, is be front row, right on top of the first or third baseline, so you can see the hitter. I prefer first base. I like to see the hitter from the right-handed hitters from behind.
Yeah, of course.
It makes because how you get in a ballpark, even in football games, the ball looks like it's traveling weird depending what angle. I hate sitting in the outfield ever, because it looks like every ball is just leaving the yard. It just confuses me to no end.
I got to tell you.
Thanks to our friends at Ticketmaster. And I think I already saw an email from them where it's hey, because, obviously I bought tickets. It's hey, you should get ALDS tickets now. These are a thing. Fuck yes. I might go again next Tuesday. Tuesdays is an open night for me without football.
There's no way the Twinks could sweep the Astros so they don't even have a game in Minnesota, right?
So my wife was a little disappointed she didn't come, but she can't get out. She can't get off work that early for the most part. She asked, she's I said, game 3
Isn't she
is
about
Tuesday.
to go on strike or something?
No, she's not union. They're union up in the Twin Cities. It'd be great if they go on strike. That's good for us, because we have to keep pace with union pricing. So she might. Last time the union went on strike, my wife just got a raise to keep pace, so they didn't lose people after they ended up settling their deal. But she texted me back, and I said, I don't know if it'll be the evening game. There is another game that day, and she said, I said the first 2 will be in Houston. It's best of 5. She's oh, so that could be the last game then if we win that one too. Yeah, okay, sure. I guess you're an optimist. That's how that goes.
I will tell you this, man.
Maybe.
You know what? You know what comes with cheap tickets?
The
fans who care.
Spend more on the 50-50?
No, fans who care. The atmosphere in that place for game 1 was awesome. Awesome. Playoff baseball atmosphere in general is awesome, but boy, oh boy, did the Twin Cities fans, they brought it, man. That was very, very cool. And I think, the Pink Hats in Fenway after a couple of World Series, it just doesn't hit the same as a team that's kind of breaking a streak like that. And everybody was there with, $30 tickets. So I'm glad you went. That's cool. I'm glad you took your kid.
I do miss last baseball thing before we jump into the week. I do miss the Metrodome. It was an absolute dilapidated piece of shit. And they had the long urinal troughs that you had to piss in, like just your shoulder with some randoms. It was gross. The place wasn't.
You do the run and slip and slide down the urinal. Yeah.
But the whole place was gross. It wasn't great, but that place was so loud. It was so incredibly loud. I went to a bunch of playoff games there. You couldn't hear yourself talk, when the crowd got up. So I do enjoy the indoor stadiums, but oh man, it was like 80 degrees with partial sun. It was so nice.
Oh, that's sick. That's sick. Fall ball, fall classic.
Fall ball,
so super, super, super fun, special. All right, well. Sorry to the all 2,000 Rays fans, but they are eliminated. Rangers move on. We got some good ALDS games.
They did not show up in force down there, did they?
No, but how excited! I'm excited for both these series. These should be two good series. Let's talk some football and Thursday night football, which may be the game of the week, right?
Oh,
Chicago, Washington. Yeah.
So,
do you remember this Thursday nighter from last year?
This is like so this is obviously an important game for Eberflus, I guess, trying to keep his job. Although I still have my doubts that the McCaskies would do an in-season firing with, like, what are you going to do? Are you so excited about Luke Getsy? You're going to promote him? Like, what's the fix here? I think you just kind of hang out with it. But
Luke Getsy still have a job there?
Yeah, I guess.
They take play calling away from him?
They took play calling away from the DC that quit. We never got like closure on that. Remember that? I don't think we'll ever find out. But no, it's Eberflus is like a minus 200 favorite to be first coach fired. I don't think they'll do it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe teams do change their stripes sometimes if things get drastic enough. Drastic measures. But this is kind of a huge one for the Commanders because it's looked pretty bad at times, and we're on a historic rate for sacks for a guy back there, Howell. But they can be 3-2 here. They're not a huge favorite, but they're a decent home favorite here. 3-2 isn't a terrible spot to be in a very wide open wild card race. Clearly the third best team in their own division, but this is a team that has a real case to be like the 6th or 7th spot in the playoffs, and that'd feel really good to these fans who they got rid of their owner, kind of a fresh start. I'm not sure how that complicates the assumed lame duck coach. Maybe Rivera just rides off into the sunset kind of thing, behind closed doors, or they give him a bag, tell him to leave, and promote Bieniemy if they like that sort of thing. But total's kind of been bet up in this one. I get it. Seen some life out of the Bears offense against a bad defense, and Howell likes to fire it all over, and the Bears don't have any defensive backs left. They didn't get very good news at their injury reports. The only concern, I said this to someone earlier today, is it's still a Thursday night game. I don't love either coaching staff from a game planning standpoint so far.
Correct.
I'm not so sure we can count on fireworks on a short week from either of these teams, despite the obvious advantages they probably have on the offensive side. I can see myself betting the Commanders if I talk myself into it, but other than this, I haven't touched this game.
Yeah. Last year's Thursday night special between these two teams finished 12-7. And even that felt flattering if you watched any of that game. I don't know if you remember that one. And you're right. Ron Rivera, for whatever it's worth, has always been a little bit underwhelming. I think he's probably one of the worst Thursday night football ATS coaches going, who's got like a decent sample size. So I don't know what it is about him, but he does not get his team up for these Thursday short weeks. And Howell doesn't have a bunch of experience in this spot. Like, this is his first Thursday night game, so this is his first short week. I think you probably keep the playbook pretty simple. I think you let Howell do a little bit of, I don't know. I'm split on Howell. Like sometimes he's shown flashes of like a guy who absolutely belongs as a starter and will continue to get better and might even be good one day. Like not a guy that you're dying to replace, like many of the other starting quarterbacks in today's NFL, which is a different story entirely. And so, he's got like flashes of good, but he's also, like you said, he's a sack machine. Bears don't have a pass rush, so that may not be a problem. Bears don't have a secondary, so guys like Terry McLaurin, who were awesome last week, should be awesome again.
I was going to say, like, fight me on that a little. Like, how does this over get home? Is it going to be just like a Commander's route and you get some
Commander's route
from the Bears? That's kind of where that's my path. My most likely path would be Commanders. The offense really just does it up because the secondary is so fucked.
You said it exactly, Andy. The Commanders up by multiple scores at halftime, and the Bears get some garbage time scores, and the rest is history. Although, I mean, maybe the Bears don't even score in garbage time because they still have some questions with their O-line, and this is a really good pass rush. They're not going to want to like take the night off. They're going to want to eat if they can. And they're rounding into full strength. They're coming off a game where they just went up against the monsters in Philly. This is going to feel very different for them.
I don't have any like actual empirical evidence, stats, or data for this. It just feels like a defensive touchdown game.
Yeah.
Maybe not like first score, but like it feels like there's with the pass rush getting to, either they don't really have a pass rush in Chicago, but the pass rush getting to Fields and then just kind of the slight erraticness we've seen from Howell at times feels like there's a goofy fumble or a pick six in this one.
There were at least two defensive scores in Bears games this season. Three have had defensive touchdowns. The Packers did it. Packers might have had multiple defensive touchdowns against them. The Buccaneers did it.
Yeah, it was one at least. The Bucs had
Buccaneers
the pick six
did it
in the middle
and
screen.
then the fumble six for the Broncos last week. So there's been at least three. What's the fourth game I'm forgetting about that Chicago played? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head on that.
I have not watched a lot of Bears, I'll be honest with you.
They lost to Green Bay. They lost to Tampa.
Yeah. They lost to Kansas City.
This is week 5. Kansas
City have a defensive touchdown?
That game was kind of boring.
Yeah, that was
I don't believe it did. Just Kansas City just kind of marched down a bunch and then sat there. That was the first Taylor Swift game.
Yeah, that's right. And there were no defensive scores in that one. Although 41 points you would have guessed there might have been. Yeah.
So, no action for me. If you made me bet a side, it would be Commanders. It's not a real teaser, but like Commanders money line teased with the over. Like I used to do these stupid side and total teasers on primetime games all the time for small money for action, and I used to hate it because I knew they weren't smart, but they seem to work out a lot. And at that point, it's like, did I find something? I'm like, don't do this to yourself, Andy. Don't.
This is not a thing.
You have something here.
It's not a thing. I will say that the line has been bouncing up and down around 6. Like there's been push-pull here. So people have opinions on this game. Good luck to them. At one point I thought pretty clearly this was Bears or pass. Right now I think it's more like Commanders or pass. But should the commies really be laying 6 points to anybody in the NFL? Probably not. They couldn't get it done against they couldn't get it done against Josh Dobbs, who had been in Arizona for half a second week 1. So who's to say they're going to get it done against the Bears on a short week?
So let's kind of contextualize the Dobbs situation, because what you said, we'll get to them in a second. I just want to say this quick. Like, he's been great, especially compared to what they thought they were going to get, but that was rough.
It was awful.
Like, it was like, this guy hasn't played with his team he's been here for like a week. It's one thing Dobbs is learning the system and he's playing well. Like the fact that he was just able to waltz in, grab a playbook, go grab a Diet Pepsi from the soda machine, head up to the practice field, play him like a week later, and do that was really something.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving on to the London game, London, England. The NFL did the Bills dirty. They took a home game against the Jaguars and they've moved it to Tottenham. That would be unfortunate to lose a home game in the blind. Be even more unfortunate if you had the Jaguars in London the week before, acclimated to the time and the conditions, and really given a week of mini camp to prepare for this particular matchup. I am squarely in the this is a situational disaster for Buffalo, camp, and I'm also not sure that there is 6 points difference between these two teams in a neutral field. I don't really know where the home field advantage for the Bills comes from in this contest. I think this is probably just a straight up neutral handicap, outside of the fact that the Bills are traveling for 9 hours and the Jags are not. And so this is a pretty straightforward back the Jags, hope that you get their best effort, hope that the Bills are either impacted by travel, impacted by kind of the pomp and circumstance of playing in London, playing early, and also coming off of, kind of a season-defining win against a division rival, and now you got to get back up for a game against the Jaguars. All of it, to me, I know the Bills are playing like nuclear hot right now, and they're the hottest team in football. But there are plenty of examples in the Josh Allen era where they had 3-game stretches where they were untouchably good, and then it all came crashing back down. One of those examples happened against the Jaguars, Andy. You remember 9-6?
That was such a bad game.
Weird, terrible game.
I took away home field.
Yes.
Obviously. And I looked at these two teams in a neutral. And what I was forced to do with the downgrades to the Jacksonville offense last week, I have this 8.4 on a neutral.
Whoa.
I think I have Jacksonville a lot lower than people. I was very quick. And I'll say this over and over. They weren't any good last week.
No.
They were just as bad as Atlanta. The
They
offense
were good enough.
They just didn't have the turnovers. They basically did the same thing as Atlanta. They just didn't turn the ball over as much. Atlanta had back-breaking turnovers. Nobody played well in that game. Yeah, I have Jacksonville as pretty much close to almost to a neutral at this point. So I said, Christ, I can take away, I don't know, let's take a full point away from them. Call it for travel. Give the Jags a full point of home field. I'm still 7 something. I'm willing to pay for the Jaguars to have a good offensive performance against a Bills team that's well coached. I just haven't seen it from this offense yet. And I was waiting for honestly, I was just kind of waiting for a bunch of injuries to talk me out of this, but I haven't seen it yet. Besides the secondary pieces are obviously in bad shape for Buffalo. Maybe that's enough. I guess it's a cluster injury. Even if I move it a full another point for the White, Poyer, Benford, all the injuries there, I'm still not at a spot where I'm close on this. So yeah, give me Buffalo. Prove me wrong,
Okay.
Jags.
Here's my counterpoint. You ready?
Yeah.
What you saw last week from the Bills was awesome.
Yeah.
You know what it was.
I know, and I hate buying it at the top.
You know what it was entirely conditioned on? Stephon Diggs cooking some clown. Right? That was the key aspect of that game. Stephon Diggs blew that thing up.
Yeah, I'm worried you're going to try to make a case for the Jags defense here.
But yeah, you know who's been pretty outstanding in coverage? Tyson Campbell. That guy can cover. I think he can definitely kind of limit Diggs from being the game breaker here, which makes Buffalo play with one hand time behind their back. Maybe all of the wrinkles and heavy personnel and the 2 tight end sets and Gabe Davis's emergence, maybe all of that stuff is comes to fruition in this game, and the Bills kind of still score into the high 20s, low 30s. But I think if you can force them to do it without Diggs, you might have a decent chance of keeping this Bills team somewhat contained.
I don't have the Bills. I don't have the Bills scoring a ton here. A lot of this is just predicated on this is a bad offensive line, a bad offensive game plan, and this is a bad team to face defensively. I'm not super sure we see the Bills go for 30 here. Like you said,
so you're Jags total team under is your real
I'm kind of at that too.
It's 48.5.
Sam's pointing this out too. This was another thing. I looked at the Jags defensive numbers. It was something, I guess. And I do want to be I do want to be fair to the. It's not like you have 2 straight home games. It is a little different. Still unfamiliar. The biggest difference, obviously, is the time acclimation. Fuck, they're not even at the same stadium. It's
sure.
Wembley to Tottenham. It's not like they just come back and all their shit to their lockers still. They still have to go stay in hotels and move around. It's still a road game for them as well.
No, this is like
mainly it's the time
angle,
acclimation thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's the time acclimation, but it's also the angle of like Niners going and spending the week in Youngstown.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like that's right. I gave him a full point for it. I said that's where the full point in travel.
Okay.
I started at such a high number. I'm like, I just can't get behind the Jaguars offense doing anything. And it would really be, hey, the secondary is too beat up and they keep this close.
Okay.
But yeah, 5.5 was short.
All right. We're on opposite sides. I like a little debate. Let's embrace some more debate.
Embrace
Look at
it.
us. Yeah, I like it. All right.
I wish Lawrence's numbers were impressive too. He's like a bottom third.
Well, his EPA per play is influenced by a couple fluky bad plays and a bunch of drops. So he's going to explode eventually.
I know. I'm hate
sure
doing that too, though, Drew. Like, there's so much of that where do you remember that preseason game for Justin Fields where he threw like 2 passes with the air yards combined for like a thimble?
Yes.
And they were like 2 long touchdowns. I mean, the deeper
Jordan
you get
Love
into
week 1.
Yeah, that too. But the deeper you get into the season, everybody has those, and you almost got to throw them out as noise because everybody's going to have them both ways. You're going to have some game-breaking, like honestly, the Diggs play, like you said. How many times did the same guy miss the tackle on him? I think he beat the same guy 3 times. That was embarrassing.
That was bad.
Diggs is good. It reminds me of there was an AJ Brown touchdown where he caught the ball at like the 6-yard line with 5 guys between him in the end zone.
I had never heard of that guy before. He's from the Ivory Coast.
Yeah, the Ivory Coast.
I'm sure he wants to go back to Africa after that. All right. That was rough. That guy had the worst day on Sunday of anyone that I saw playing professional football. Your point is fair, but I guess my thought though is that like some of Lawrence's numbers don't look great right now because it is a small sample and because that shit is in there. And
I know, I thought about that. I'm like, God, even if I upgrade him a bunch, where's that put him? Middle of the pack? Because he's bottom third right now.
That's fine.
I worry that it's not him. I kind of don't love some of the play calling. I'd love to see that improve.
Yeah, Press Taylor's not having a.
I'm not a Press Taylor guy. Yeah. I'm a Drew Petzing guy somehow.
All right, let's move on.
How did Arizona end up with a better offensive coordinator? Houston,
let's
Atlanta.
Move on to Houston, Atlanta. So this is an interesting one because Houston opened up +3. It got bet to a pick, and then there was Atlanta buyback. I think the buyback is soft enough that you can't say that there's a strong position out there on Atlanta. Although I bet Atlanta in this game. I think that in general, the market rating these two teams as roughly equivalent in Atlanta is noteworthy. This represents a relatively healthy upgrade for the Texans and or a downgrade for the Falcons or a little bit of both. My handicap here is pretty straightforward. I think it's possible that CJ Stroud's numbers are a bit inflated by the fact that he's been in a super positive game state 2 weeks in a row. I think it's possible that Desmond Ritter's numbers, and particularly his film, look atrocious because he's not a good quarterback on the road. Maybe not a good quarterback at all, but certainly not a good quarterback on the road. So I think there is kind of an avenue here where the Falcons and Ritter are a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more plucky, can get out to a lead, play with a positive game state, and put CJ Stroud in a position where he's trying to get things done while he is under duress from a pretty nice little interior defensive pass rush that the Falcons are trotting out there against an offensive line that lost another key piece in Kendrick Green. So it's not a strong bet for me. This is a hold your nose and just bet a team that absolutely sucked last week, but I think Falcons under 3 is fine play.
Yeah, it depends. And Sam's pointing out it depends how they do against the run and I do want to push back on this a little. Sam says the Falcons have played 2 great run defenses and are 0-2. They've played 2 bad run defenses. They're 2-0. The timing of it too is a little where it does feel like, while those 2 run defenses were markedly better weeks 3 and 4, they were also teams that got to see that team play and like, hey, not only do we have a good run defense, this team is kind of one-dimensional, and we can key in on this. And if we make Ritter uncomfortable and make him try to be the guy, and we take away what they're doing well, It's just not going to move. And obviously the turnovers are massive for them last week. I'm pretty much on market for this. I have Atlanta minus 1.5. It's another one of those where if you're betting the Texans, you're taking them at the peak of their market. If you're taking the Falcons, they've just lost 2. You're kind of taking them maybe at a bit of a gully, as they say in The Big Short. I watched that.
And they're in a barranca.
There's just a gully.
They're in a barranca.
It's the gully. They're a barranca from the LACC. So it's kind of it's a tough spot to convince me to bet the Texans here. But if you needed a tiebreaker, it's coming back from London and playing a game right away.
Yeah, that's not great.
we don't have a huge sample size on that. I think if you actually look at it, those teams did well. But again, it's like a sample of like 6 games, which is impossible to use that sort of data. I don't love the travel spot for them. And, if Stroud proves us wrong and he just continues to play, he just doesn't turn the ball over. He has like 5 receivers that he trusts. They're spreading it around. Every week it's somebody. This offense is probably good enough. I don't know. It's not a game I want to put money on, honestly.
Okay. I think, yeah, I probably shouldn't have bet it, but there's buys.
What'd you get? Did you get a pick?
Pickings. Yeah.
I mean, if you got the best of the number on the Falcons, I don't hate that. Like I said, it
could go back to
Falcons 1.5.
I wouldn't be surprised if
this is one. I guarantee there's people out here that love to, take early numbers and play both sides that have 3 and pick.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's probably true. All right. Carolina, Detroit is a fun one. The Lions coming off of a week of extra rest, taking on a Panthers team that can't get out of their own way on offense. I actually, what's funny is like, when you make kind of a really declarative statement about somebody being good, right? And then everybody's like, well, what about us? We're good. What about us? We're good. Right. Usually when you say somebody sucks or they're the worst, nobody's like, but what about us? We suck. I got some pushback from my rant about the Carolina offense being terrible, being the worst in the NFL on Sunday. People were like, oh, they're not the worst. There's 7 offenses that didn't score a touchdown on Sunday. And it's like, yeah, that's true. I actually got to think about this a little bit. There might be some worse offenses out there. Steelers comes to mind. Patriots comes to mind. Certainly the mess that's going on in New York is potentially at the top of the list right now. But the Panthers going up against the mighty Alan McNeil and Aiden Hutchinson. Best of luck to them. I guess I didn't bet this game. I don't know why. I probably should have just played the Lions. I think coming off of such an emotionally awesome win in Lambeau, maybe they just kind of Milton Berle this and pull out only enough to win and not cover. But that doesn't feel very Lionsy. And so I would guess that this is probably Lions or pass. I would guess that this is probably under or pass. I could see like a 40-0 type of game here where it stays under 44.5. And Bryce Young looks lost. He's down in the freaking doldrums where it's like he's like with quarterbacks that never figured it out among rookies, which is not good. The biggest laugh of the week, Andy, biggest laugh of the week was when you saw the underdog tweet that says Carolina aggressively pursuing a trade for a wide receiver 1.
and then everyone made the easy joke. The fucking, here's an alley, I'll do the oop. They should trade for DJ Moore.
The amazing part is though that they are stuck with their back against the wall with really no capital, no draft capital, no flexibility to go get a wide receiver 1.
No, I don't understand what the precipice is like. Hey, we're 0-4. We want to go. We're buyers. just sort it out. That management team there has always puzzled me at times. I don't know if we loved. I don't know if anybody loved Rule off the bat as a hire. Like it's been a stretch there since it's been a long time since the heights of when Cam and Rivera were really pouring it on. Remember when this team had Christian McCaffrey?
Man, feels like a million years ago.
It does feel like a million years ago. I make this kind of like dead even between 9.5 and 10. I'm really close. It would be Lions or nothing because of the offense. There's a decent case, and I hate to pile on the team again, and we'll know a little more how they play at home versus somebody they probably should be able to put points on, but there's a case that this isn't even the worst offense in the division. If Ritter looks that bad again, if people can figure you out to be truly one-dimensional, you're so dead in the NFL. Atlanta's getting close to like danger zone on that. The Panthers haven't had a lot of offensive success, and like somebody said in the chat, scoring what they scored on Minnesota, that's very troubling. That's a defense that you should be shredding. That was an over that got bet up aggressively off the early market and didn't come close. There's 2 defensive touchdowns that still didn't even come close. Like it's, at a certain point, it's in the bottom 5. Like there's no doubt. It's the New York teams, it's Atlanta, Carolina, and probably the Steelers. Like there's not a whole lot of offenses worse than Carolina. I think they're probably 32nd for me if I went and looked, but no dice here. I don't.
So far,
I don't want to take this under though. I worry about.
Let me ask you.
Panthers offense.
Let me tell you about this. You ready? So the Panthers have played 3 games with Bryce Young. All 3 dead nut unders.
I know it.
All 3. The only game that went over was the game that Andy Dalton started. All right. The other kind of key factor here is the Panthers' run defense is horrifically bad, which means the Lions can literally score, get it to 28 points, and then just kind of put their hand on the opponent's forehead and
hit the cruise control.
You hit the cruise control and wipe out the clock. So all this said, second half under.
If there's situationally, if like Detroit has a decent lead, under 20, under 22, whatever we decide to have there. Yeah, it was tough to tell because the first 2 weeks, like New Orleans and Atlanta, those aren't good offenses. But the fact that I'm trying to look what week 3 was there. The Carolina game week.
It was Seattle again with Andy Dalton. With Andy Dalton scored.
That was the Andy Dalton game, and that was none where they just kept losing defensive pieces as well. But like when I mentioned this in the recap after watching the Vikings game, they just really went slow. It was a lot of first down run, second down run, third, or even just real short. Nothing even intermediate at times. It really, when they did move down the field, it was very slow, crossing the street a million times. So. I don't know, what did this open at, this total? I didn't really look at this
43 and a half. It's been bet up, which I do not get. Awful. You know what this feels like, Andy? 20-6, which is the line score against the Falcons.
Let's go.
Tennessee, Andy, you got to read here.
I liked this over after it was bet down a little.
Yeah, same.
I'm still on the bandwagon that the Titans have a good offense. I think if they go up against the 49ers, if they go up against, some of these teams with, you wouldn't want to bet this against the Eagles. Like, don't give me a really good pass rush with really good scheme and, good linebackers, but like against a team that ranks very, very low in basically all the metrics for pressure, for quarterback knockdown rates, for sack rates. If it weren't for the Houston game, they would be dead last. They got to play Houston. They give up a ton up front. They got like 6 sacks in that game. If it weren't for getting to play Houston in a game, remind you, they didn't win. The numbers for this pass rush should be horrid. DeForest Buckner's, I don't think he even practiced today. That's bad sign.
He's been banged up badly.
There's a bunch of injuries on the defensive side. The Titans are getting healthier, but it's not like they're good players they're getting back. It's like, we got a slightly below league average cornerback back instead of the guy that was his backup. Like, it's getting better, but it's still not good. The Colts have been playing quick. The Titans have been playing quicker than expected. And I was surprised when this came down a little. I make this like 44 and a half.
Same.
I really think the Titans offense is going to look sharp here. It's a road game, but it's still a nice indoor game like this. And Anthony Richardson is definitely a weapon. We saw that in the second half.
Mm-hmm. No, we agree. It should be 44. I can't really add any notes. Over. And I get it. Titans got bet. They might be substantially better. And really, it's the defensive injuries for the Colts are being a little bit underreported, I think. Buckner, not right. Quiddy Pay. not expected
Pretty
to
paid.
go.
No.
Flowers is out. They are down.
They didn't have a
many,
good
many,
one.
many men. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have a good report today.
No.
Zaire Franklin was hurt his
That's
back in the
bad.
game.
He's their second best defender after Shaq Leonard.
Yeah, there was they lost a cornerback. What am I looking at?
Flowers, who was their best corner.
Flowers. That was a ankle injury. Yeah, he was one of their best covered corners. Like they lost a receiver too, which sucks. It's not like I'm really big on Alex Pierce, but the other thing is
Pierce has been.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Just give the rookie more run. And it does sound like Jonathan Taylor might suit up. He was a full go today. That I don't always love. I kind of agreed with you with your Cup take. You were drunk, and I wasn't even talking about Cooper Cup, but I still agreed with it. Sometimes just inserting a guy into something that's working is not as great. But it's not like this Indy offense has been the greatest show on turf right now. Like, sure. Fine, it's Jonathan Taylor. We'll start him over Zach Moss, guys.
I think that makes sense. Okay, good luck under. The G-men taking on Miami. Which matchup is more problematic here for the Giants, Andy? Is it their defense and their lack of ability to cover against the best wide receiver core in the NFL? Or is it their offense and their inability to pass protect against a very good pass rush?
Honestly, the Giants defense is probably middle of the pack. We've just been put in really weird game states for a few of these games.
Fair enough.
They don't have a terrible defense. They've just been put in terrible positions. There's a case that it could be as low as 20th, maybe even a little lower. But that said, this is still the Dolphins. This is the Dolphins at home. This is not a good spot for anybody who doesn't have a top, 10 defense at least. You got to be hating life here. These fast receivers, this scheme coming off a divisional loss. Like, I know that's dumb narrative shit, but man, facing a really good team off a loss is never fun. Dolphins probably come out fast here again. And yeah, the Giants I think the bigger problem is the offense. Even if,
no question,
they're going to be able to get a pass rush. I know we're missing some pieces in this Dolphins defense, leaves a little bit to desired. But they still will be able to get a pass rush against these people that are missing. Thomas doesn't sound like was he ruled out already? It sounds like it's a kind of a no.
I don't know what's going on with him, but
I'm assuming it's a no. It sounds like it's good. Yeah. Evan
and
Beal
they lost
freaking out on people.
They lost two other interior offensive linemen too, who are missing practice.
The
center and the guard.
Yeah, Schmitz, the center, ended up doing something to his lower. I think it was an ankle, and then they lost a guard later in the game. So you could be missing 3 against a half decent above average pass rush, I think. And
it's worth noting, by the way,
you seen what happened last week.
The center and the guard that got hurt on the 4th and 1.
They mentioned that. Yeah. They said, we didn't really practice it, but we just threw it out there.
And it got 2 of our interior linemen hurt.
Oh, yeah, the guard, Drew, the guard did get hurt later.
He did?
It was Bellinger, but you're right, there's 2 injuries. Bellinger got hurt on that as well.
Okay. Well, whatever the case is. I don't know how you're protecting Daniel Jones. And I guess here's my current feelings about the Giants real quick. You're right that the defense isn't as bad as the offense is right now, but the defense has no ceiling. None. Like they don't have a ceiling where on a given day they come out and they're good because they're blitzing like crazy and they still can't generate pressure and they're leaving their corners on islands and they still can't cover good wide receivers. So literally, if you just kind of come in with a game plan of we're going to get the ball out of our hands quickly to our wide receivers who can create separation, then you win. You score points, you win. And when you are that solved in the NFL, you are in deep, deep trouble. And good.
Until I'm trying to think of another good example, but outside of the Seattle game, have we seen one of these blitz-heavy teams have success with that kind of? Obviously, Minnesota hasn't had much defensive success. We've seen Tampa do it a little. Seattle did it differently, though. A lot of it was secondary pieces, and I think they knew like our secondary is so beat up. We have to get a pass rush here somehow with some blitzing, otherwise we're going to get beat over the top. But if it looks anything like last week, and Breida was terrible. The game planning for him was bad. He was much better as a receiver. They got virtually nothing on the ground from him. Jones got some runs, but at a certain point, like if you go look at his actual like rushing stats with all the sacks, it was like he had negative 40 yards. It was a tough hang watching that game, honestly.
Yeah, the until the offensive line shows a sign of life, then the Giants cannot touch.
I hate that we're at a spot where like Saquon matters. He kind of does because
he's this is a bust kind of game because they can't create holes for him.
I know, but he's better. He's a little better at everything. Like, and I don't know if it mattered last game with like the offensive lineman out too, but man, you're just getting nothing with Breida. Oof, it's a bad situation up there because, like you said, I said, hey, the defense is a little better than we think. But I have a pretty narrow band around 15 and 16 as far as how good they are. Like they're not, they're playing a lot better now. They're a top 10 defense. No, it's like, they're playing a lot better now. They're the 14th best defense instead of 20th. It's just, it doesn't have a high ceiling, like you said. So a lot of people making cases in the chat for Dolphins first half. Yeah, the Giants have been the opposite of what we saw from Philly last year. The Giants' first halves have been real bad. I think they've scored 9 total points now in the first half of games, and obviously
that seems like more than I remember.
Yeah, the Dolphins have been pretty fast starters, so I don't hate that -6 first half. I might have a tickle as a tailing the chat play.
Ooh, fun. We still haven't really zeroed in on a secret pod play yet, so let's keep that in mind. Keep the mind open on what to do there. I don't think Dolphins is one at 30.5.
The mind grapes.
Yeah. Moving on to New Orleans. My primate brain said, "Hey, go Bill Belichick's off the biggest loss of his career. Go back to Patriots." And then I started doing some of the research on the injuries and started trying to figure out if the Patriots offense can score in this game. And every single thing I tried to make a strong case that the Patriots were a bet has failed. And the market, I think, agrees, as the Saints have now flipped favorite here. The injury to Christian Gonzalez sucks. The injury to Matthew Judon sucks. The fact that Mac Jones has regressed and that the offensive line can't pass pro and that the wide receivers can't separate, all that sucks. And New England might be a very tough hang for watching football games and betting on teams named the Patriots in the year 2023. So pass for me. Did you get anything on Saints before the big market shift here?
A little on the under. I think probably an overreaction to the injuries. Like nobody's better at backfilling than New England. They have a bunch of guys. I mean, nobody's Matthew Judon. And Gonzalez was closing in. I think he was third favorite for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Witherspoon took a huge chunk of that equity this week. There's nothing like having the game of your life on prime time. Yeah. That's what you should do. If you're up for awards, kids, make sure you do that. That was another. We'll get to that with the Niners here later. But
I did have a good laugh at Mike Florio saying, defensive player of the year is decided.
Yeah,
and then he doesn't even open the favorite because Jalen Carter has been amazing.
No, he's still Jalen Carter is like a sizable favorite as well. Yeah. Which it can still change, but yeah, Carter is still very much the favorite in that. Somebody else moved up. The safety from Detroit moved up a little. Obviously, Gonzalez was up in the market. Now he's crashed, just like Burrow's number is for everything else. A little on the under. I probably a little overreaction to those injuries, specifically because the Saints have never been moving the ball. They couldn't get anything to Olave last week. I don't think Carr's right. Carr is not looking like he should be playing, but what's your other option? Is just go full YOLO with Jameis. I guess it'd probably be more fun to watch, but I do believe 100% they're going to go Carr again. He's not healthy. He's not ready to go. He's still hurting. That AC joint sprain like that is a bad injury. Like he's pulling the Stafford shit we used to get, where it's like Stafford's playing and then Stafford would go out there and just play like garbage. It's like why did Detroit put him out there in this game? Like they just lost this game. They might have had a chance with a different game plan with Charlie Batchin or whoever the fuck the backup was.
The Saints would have had a better chance. Charlie Batch, that's good. Was Charlie Batch the Lion? I think he was.
He was a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Pittsburgh Steeler and a Lion too, right?
Yeah, he was a Lion, but I don't think Carr is going to have a good time against this defense, even with Judon and Gonzalez out, and being on the road in New England, and at the same time, I think we might have been a little hasty to say this offense is going to get better because they have an actual coordinator now. Because it's not been the sequencing, the play calling has been rough, but on top of that, just like Mac has not progressed at all.
No, and his offensive line's been awful, and his wide receivers stink as well, and the running backs have not really helped. But I will also say, this is not making excuses for Mac; he's been awful. I was
hoping nobody would call me on this. I know he's
they just missed each other by 10 years, sliding doors. I agree with everything you were saying about Carr. I think the Saints probably would have had a better chance just having Taysom Hill under center last week. And so that's why I didn't bet the Saints this week. Really, it's just that I think there's a chance that I thought Carr needed 3 or 4 weeks when we heard about the injury, and so him starting, I was like, oh, I guess that we were just misled. It's not that bad. And then you watch him play, and it's like, oh no, it is that bad. They should have not played him. And I think that probably still carries through this week. And it's what's even worse is that like the Saints offensive coordinator and head coach are out there now doing deflection on like their scheme. And they're like, people are pushing like, why aren't we pushing the ball now? Why aren't we using our wide receivers? Why aren't we being more aggressive? And it's like, okay, well, if you have a hurt Carr, now you're going to push into that direction all of a sudden, and it's not going to work. Like it feels like they are kind of lost as a coaching staff in New Orleans, and I think they're going to probably underperform what their true rating ought to have been for the season when it's all said and done. But that said, I have no interest in betting either of these teams in this game, even though Belichick is coming off his worst loss as a head coach.
Not one of my stronger angles, but I make this like 37.
Under,
so I did play some under here.
Which team total under do you like better? Out of curiosity.
I mean, the Saints actually have offensive weapons with Olave and Kamara, and I mean, like you said, the wide receivers are doing nothing as far as favors for Mac Jones. They spent all that money on tight ends a couple of years ago. That's not coming to fruition. They went and they liked their running back, and then they brought in a veteran. Neither of those is turning out that well. Just nothing is turning out well for this Patriots offense.
Okay. Patriots team total under 20.5 is in the queue for potential secret pod play. Let's move on.
All right. And then, before we get to the second half, quick commercial break. I want to do that where it's like a real commercial break, and it's like, and then we come back. But it's just going to be me saying the Ticketmaster. Because more memories are made when you're there for live NFL action or MLB like I was. You can buy baseball tickets. But it is the official marketplace of the NFL. And, this interactive seat maps, the 365-degree previews, 365 degrees. They're one-upping science. 360-degree previews of your section. Make sure you have the best view of those pivotal plays in this game. And obviously, you get the mobile app making getting in on game day a breeze. Find your tickets today at Ticketmaster.com/NFL. That stands for National Football League. And we're on to the second half of this game. Jameis Ferguson says Zappy would at least be fun, Charles. I don't know. I'd make that total higher.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of room for fuckery in that. Good divisional. This was one I was kind of looking forward to, and injuries, and also the Steelers. How are the Steelers 2-2, Drew? Explain that one to
me. They realistically should probably be 0-4. They should have lost to the Browns. They should have lost to the Raiders, and they definitely should have lost week 1 and week 4. So that's what Mike Tomlin does, Andy. He plays 500 football. He coaches 500 football, I guess. I kind of don't really have any defense for this, so I don't even really want to get into it. But I played the Steelers at a big number, and it's moved in their direction, I guess. I don't know why.
It's a lot of points. It's a lot of
It's a lot
points
of points
for a Ravens team that we didn't really get a good bearing on this team last week. They were fine. They played pretty well for how many players they were missing, but they were also afforded basically a positive game script for the whole game. They were afforded short fields. Even when they weren't getting short fields, they were getting turnovers. They were getting constant just screw ups by the Browns. And yes, the Browns have an amazing defense, but even those amazing defenses don't hold up when you turn the ball over that many times. And I mean, what are you going to do? It's hard to rate. It's hard to take that box score, hard to watch that game again and say, like, this is what I think of the Ravens at that point. It's really hard for me to get a bearing on the Ravens based on this season. Their first game was a rookie's first game. They had this one. Honestly, they might end up in a spot here where they end up with a second straight week where they get a backup quarterback. I'm not so sure Pickett is going. I mean, there was a little bit of update, but they said, so originally the report on Kenny Pickett was he'll miss time.
Third straight week, man.
Yeah, they said he'll miss time. Yeah, it's been third straight week. Yeah, he'll miss time, but it won't be season ending. Limited practice today, though. That said, like Freiermuth didn't practice. Leal, they had a bunch of guys out as well. Kind of positive news for Baltimore, but at the same time, it's still just Wednesday, guys. Like, limited practice doesn't mean you're playing. There are still plenty of guys like Bateman. It's like, oh, good, Bateman's in. What does that give you? It's not like that your offense is suddenly fixed. That guy's been stud. They lost 2 corners during the game that went out.
Yeah. That's part of my.
There was, the safety Worley, who was actually in for Marcus Williams, who was injured. He went out with a shoulder injury in the first half. So they have a bunch of beat up secondary pieces as well. So I don't know. Like, it's not a dynamic offense you're facing, but you are still a very beat up team that's heading on the road for a divisional matchup against another good defense. Like, you're right to take that number. That number was probably too big. I'm gonna look. I wasn't excited about it because there was just so much injury uncertainty. Yeah. But yeah,
one of the reasons I bet it is because I think I got close to 6. It was like 5.5 or something like that.
I make it just shy of 5. I'm at like 4.9.
Let me take a look. Anyway, I'll look it up in a second. But the one of the other factors was I kind of felt like Trubisky has a higher floor right now than Pickett. You might have even said this to me, so I don't want to be stealing your point.
He does,
doesn't he? He does. I think Pickett's just playing so poorly and playing without confidence, and legitimately, he's not running a good offense, but he's specifically making some poor decisions that I think maybe Trubisky doesn't. So, also the Ravens pass rush, I have questions about. I never got answered. Did you see my post in the Discord about how it was possible that Jadeveon Clowney is on pace for 80 pressures this year when Pro Football Reference has him at 6?
That doesn't make sense.
No. Some counting stat has him at 19, and Pro Football Reference had 6 for him. Have you watched enough Ravens to see that Jadeveon Clowney has been doing anything for them?
No, I have a couple of stat places I should look to see what's going on with that. I don't know if I'll do it right here, but yeah, like that doesn't check out. And I haven't watched a ton of Ravens. A lot of it has been secondhand viewing or watching the quick 30-minute recap.
Yeah, right. Same.
Which
they've been in a bunch of bad games. They've been in some bad ones.
Yeah, it's not like those games are super exciting to watch. Let me pull it up on fantasy data quick. I mean, just what do you think of this total too?
It's gone the right way. Because I think the Steelers right now, I think their defense is pass funnel. I think their cornerbacks stink, and for whatever reason, Micah Fitzpatrick's impact has been muted so far this season. Their pass rush is good at times, but not consistent enough to be a distinguishing factor. And I think that you can pass on this team, but I don't think the Ravens can. Because they only have really Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews running around out there. And there were a couple of plays where Lamar Jackson had a lot of time against the Browns. I was kind of surprised, and I think maybe Myles Garrett might be dealing with something, but I don't think you're going to have that much time against T.J. Watt. What's that?
Here's hoping. I don't need him winning Defensive Player of the Year.
No.
Yeah, this one just. I mean, I have snaps and stuff. I don't have pressure, so I'll look somewhere else. But I mean, he has a couple of. I mean, you're correct. I've seen that too. He had some sacks that he just didn't wrap up, but he has a sack and a half. He has like 5 quarterback hits. Doesn't feel like
he couldn't be at 19.
20 pressure seems like a lot. I'm gonna dig into that later on.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I think there must have been a bust. Anyway, the overall read on the Baltimore Ravens is they're not as good as their record. They're not as good as their rating.
No, and I do think though this is a depending on the injuries go though. This is one where the Ravens have been good with a lead, despite not having any running backs healthy ever.
That's true.
They still have been kind of good with a lead, and Lamar affords you that because he's a good scrambler. And Kenny is really, really rough when he gets under any pressure. Like, not just like, hey, I'm throwing this away and I shouldn't, but like happy feet, bad throws. There's been some rough play from him. So like, this is a Ravens lead, bet the Ravens second half kind of thing, and just call it a day on any Steelers bets. But I think this is a low scoring, close game, within a score kind of game. I'm just
so you're kind of seeing this like a classic Ravens Steelers game.
It's kind of like we might, it says 3-1, but I think we should throw the records out.
Okay. Yeah.
When these two teams get together. Yeah.
When they do. Yeah. I would throw the records out because 3-1 is misleading. 2-2 is misleading.
Like we're joking, but both of these records are super misleading. Like they should be 2-2, 0-4.
Yeah. There's also, by the way, there is no love lost between the Steelers and the Ravens. If you did not know,
I'm cheering for the Ravens to get this done by like 3, so you win. But I'd like them to win. If the Ravens do win this, I'm not saying the division has been won, but they will have played all 3 of their divisional foes and won
on the road.
Yes. By week 5 to have 3 road wins against your division. And a 2-game lead at that point. I mean, essentially a 3-game lead. Like they should be like minus 300 after this if they win this game.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that they are what they are on the money line tells you that that's probably a valuable bet, just because they're probably going to win.
Yeah, I honestly, I think if you like the Ravens to cover here, maybe take a little and take a quarter of that and put them on the division as well, because that number isn't maybe getting shorter ever.
Yeah. Right. All right. The Bengals are part of the problem in the AFC North, excuse me. I don't think you can throw their record out. 1-3, could be 0-4. Were it not for an amazing second half by their pass rush that really kind of took the game out of the hands of Matt Stafford and the Rams. The Bengals offense has been an utter disaster, and the reasons could not be more clear. Joe Burrow is hurt, and he is trying to play around a significant injury that limits his ability to get power into his throws, and that means his general depth of target is shorter. He is game planable, and the amazing set of weapons that they have when healthy cannot be utilized to their maximum potential. These are all reasons why the total being bet up to 45 made me feel like I was taking crazy pills this week.
Thank you. I there was a 45 minus 13 at Chris today, and I
don't get it.
I bet the under. I did take. I fully agree with you. We've seen some overperforming from Dobbs and this team, and yes, but this Bengals defense is not bad. This is still a decent enough defense, especially if you want to keep expounding on my. Hey, I believe that the Tennessee offense is actually kind of good, but
I think they are.
But like the Cincinnati Bengals, this is not like a bad defense by any means, but it's another one where we just keep hammering this one home. It's not completely one-dimensional, but it kind of is, because you're taking away, the dynamic deep stuff, because Burrow just can't get everything into those throws, and a lot of his rushing. like he's not really a big threat to be taking off time after time in this spot. With this injury I'm not saying it'd be better with Browning, but I don't know if it'd be much worse.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It'd probably be worse. Probably.
I mean, could it be? You see where Bro is on the EPA chart?
Yeah, it's rough. I feel bad for him because he's such a fun player. It sucks as a football watcher because like this is a very good,
Yeah,
not only
this guy was a top 3
quarterback,
choice for MVP coming into the season.
I'm trying to look what he ran for last year. He took off 75 times for 250 yards and 5 touchdowns last year.
He's getting thoroughly
he's not on
outplayed
pace for that.
but he's getting thoroughly outplayed by Justin Fields so far this season, Andy. And Mac Jones.
His output last year was 257 on the ground for 5 touchdowns, 28 first downs with his legs.
Wow.
He is on pace for 12 yards and no touchdowns this year. He has 3 rushing yards. I know, but yeah, obviously it's because he's hurt. Maybe he gets better, but it's going to get in a weird spot here too, because if the Bengals have this deficit, God forsake they lose this game, and 1-4, like you have you don't have a viable path to the division, and it's still the AFC where there's so many good teams. Like at that point, do you keep playing him? I know I hate to just call the season over, but the season might be over. Just why play him hurt at that point?
Yeah, it's absolutely.
If you lose this game, you bench him.
Right now, the Ben Baldwin's EPA plus CPOE composite, Burrow is the 34th out of 34 qualifying quarterbacks.
We're doing the tweet. The tweet where men can literally just sit around and name old sports players. We're doing St. Louis Cardinals.
That's good.
Yeah.
And EPA and completion percentage composite, Burrow's being outplayed by Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones. This is not good company, considering what we've seen from some of these players so far this season. Get Burrow right. What are we doing? They should have done this 2 weeks ago. They would have lost those games anyway.
Patrick, as he is wont to do, always stomps on the point I was about to make because he's just a little faster than me. He doesn't have to. He can just type whatever. I'm sitting here, having to put these thoughts together and go pull up the schedule. But so they do get the Cardinals, which are overperforming and still one of the worst teams in the league.
Correct.
And next week, not a great spot at home against the Seahawks, who are kind of getting right on offense a little bit. After that, they have the Niners, the Bills, the Texans at home, which maybe the Texans are good. Ravens on the road. You have, and then you have the Steelers twice yet. You close with the Chiefs and the Browns. You have the Vikings offense. This schedule is if you lose one of these next 2 games, you shut him down for a month. Just get him right.
Absolutely. You know what this sounds like to me, Andy? Marvin Harrison Jr. better start getting fitted for stripes. See how he looks in stripes. Let don't pay T. Higgins, let him walk, and get that free agency, get that second round comp pick. That might be a second round comp pick if you let Higgins walk, right? And then go draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Put him out next to Chase. How wild will that be?
That's a pretty good offense.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Hyenas Williams, Gary. How about Gary Hodgeboom? He was a quarterback.
Hey, real quick, it's been a weird season so far. I'm somehow winning. I don't know how, because a bunch of my opinions have been really bad. But I bet the Bengals to be the most points scored this year at plus 950.
Between you and me, we've never gotten the Bengals right.
No.
Do you remember
they're being outscored by every team except the Giants.
I did a 10-minute segment on Brown Bag Bets, RIP, on how to create a synthetic market with these props, like how to bet, a staggered ladder to kind of help people with the sizing on it was like Bengals under 5.5, 4.5, 3.5, 2.5. That was the year they went to the Super Bowl. They could never. Oh God, Abahef is pointing it out right now. Yeah, I had under 2.5. They actually won more. They won more playoff games than that. We've never gotten this team right. We still can't figure out if Taylor's any good. And right now we truthfully don't have a good read on what the makeup of these 53 guys are, because the most important piece, which should be a huge boon to your success, is holding you back.
Yeah.
Weird. Besides a little on the under 45 today, but pass this game as far as watching.
Did you see, by the way,
I don't watch unders.
Did you see it, by the way, Chris, this came off of 3?
Yeah.
It's 2.5 now.
It's
the look ahead here was 8.5, man.
Yeah.
That is as big an adjustment as I can ever remember. Now here's what I don't understand. How do you adjust away from the Bengals that aggressively, but then take the total up? That makes no sense.
We're betting on the Dobbs.
We're betting on Dobbs.
Dobbs is stopping. You know what I did too? I always do a quick delta on like who's my biggest adjustment this week after I punch everything in.
Yeah.
I finally did one where I said, what's my biggest adjustments from, week 0? What's my biggest adjustments from, the preseason numbers?
God,
and it feels shitty to like, I should almost have to throw this out, but yeah, I had Cincinnati like 4.5 points better than a neutral team right now. And as of right now, they're pretty much right at the origin. It is a 0.0 kind of team. This is an average NFL team, and a lot of that is still because the defense is going to buoy them a little bit. And I don't know how hard I can go with this. It's crazy. The team I moved up the most.
Cardinals, the team they're playing.
No, it's Houston second. Houston. I had San Francisco lower than just because there was uncertainty on the most important position. I'm like, I can't assume he's healthy and he'll just be fine. So yeah, I had the Bengals slightly better than the 49ers at the beginning of the season. Not by very much. Those two ships have passed each other very quickly and gone very dramatic differences in those.
My biggest adjustments down are Cincinnati 1, Pittsburgh 2, Giants 3. My biggest adjustments up are Rams 1, Cardinals 2, and Houston 3.
Yeah, I have a hard time counting the Jets, but like Cincinnati, New York teams, Pittsburgh, Denver,
I was low on the Jets too.
Okay. Yeah, you weren't sold on it.
I haven't moved it much.
No, my 5 biggest mover uppers: San Francisco, Houston, Buffalo, Miami, Baltimore, and honestly, that Baltimore move, there's like 5 teams that are pretty close to that, and the Rams are right there in that as well. And then the mover downers were Chicago, Denver, Jets, Giants, Cincy.
Okay, let's move on to one of the other mover uppers, which is the Rams. And yet, I can't get to this price. I think the Eagles are a bet this week, and there is kind of a really there's 2 straightforward reasons why. The Eagles defense against the Rams offensive line, the D-line, the trench warfare, Andy, in this game, I think will dictate. Mm-hmm. The trench warfare dictated in Eagles versus Bucks. I think this looks very similar in terms of, roster strength, composition, etc. And then I look also at Rams versus Bengals, and I see similar kind of problems that the Rams had with the Bengals pass rush in the second half. And I think, well, if they couldn't handle that, then they're not going to handle this. And then to sprinkle a little extra juice on this, Matt Stafford has been banged up. He dealing with the hip injury that he sustained in the Colts game. I know he's practicing through it. He's going to play, but if he has a full normal week of practice and is,
he's like full.
I don't think. But I still don't think he's going to be his sharp self. That's my.
Have you ever had a bone contusion?
No, that's not good.
That's what they call it when it's not a bone bruise. It's so deep they call it a contusion. Like, your hip is important for throwing. And honestly, I don't know if he took something or gritted, but he looked fine. You could tell it was bugging him.
Well, there were some times where he was struggling physically bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You could tell it was bothering him. You're right. He was struggling. Then he got to overtime, and it's like, did he take some Motrin or what's going on? I don't know if he just was able to kick it up a notch and put that aside, but he's definitely not 100%. And this is a bad matchup for their offensive line again. I don't know what San Francisco did in the first half versus the Rams was pretty inexcusable. And I think they were game planning for the Rams that everybody thought we'd see this year, and not the Rams that we actually saw versus Seattle, who have a pretty good offense because they played it soft. They played back. There wasn't a lot of press. They didn't do Niners things. They played a really shitty first half, and they still won and probably should have covered that game.
Right.
So, you know what the funniest thing I did this week? I keep all my injuries. I have a Google Doc that it just lists every team alphabetically with bullet points. And then every week I just open it, make a copy, name it week 5 injuries. And I keep all my notes in there.
Yeah.
And I'm going through it, and I had my Stafford notes under Detroit. Like that's, I just can't get my brain right with this guy. Like I still have him in Detroit for some reason. I don't see how I don't see how successful against this pass rush if he's even 80%. Like this is a bad matchup. I don't think Kupp plays.
Yeah. And I get it. The Eagles have a reckoning coming. Like they're not as good as they have not played as well as a 4-0 team this season, but they are playing good situational football, which tells me one thing, Andy. There will be 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Eagles will have a touchdown plus lead, and they will take 9 minutes off the clock and win the game without having another Rams snap. That's kind of my general vibe here, which means I not only like the Eagles, I like the under here. And Rams team total under might be ultimately the right way to go, even more than just laying it with the Eagles at this point. But that's my opinion. Not shared by everyone. There's definitely been some support for the Rams.
Yeah. Initially I looked at this. I liked it over. More I dug into it, I'm not so sure I like.
Wow, it's up to
either
51
teams.
at Chris.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I think that's probably gone too far. This look ahead was like 46 and a half. Yeah, it's probably a bridge too far. I'm not excited about getting in on this under, but man, that's probably a little too high. If the Rams don't contribute, Swift is like, I don't know. It's the scheme. It's not Swift, but Swift is fitting this scheme perfectly. It's like when Dalvin Cook had his big year from Minnesota. It's like, man, well, the offensive line is healthy and they run this perfect outside zone and he just looks great. Like Madison comes in and does that in spells as well when they're healthy. Swift is great though in this offense. And like you said, if they get a lead, this clock is going to fly off the board. Like this is for sure. Eagles with the lead. It's probably a second half under, and probably Eagles if they're a dog at that point. I'm very close on this under at this point because, man, I don't blame people for taking like 46 and a half, 47, but this total should probably be like 48 and a half, 49.
Oh, yes.
If it gets at 51, it's a buyback. If you
agree.
got one of those early numbers, I don't hate a middle that has like 47, 48, 49 in it. Like that's a fun one.
Cool. Just
no bet right now yet.
In the interest of just curiosity, can you look at the Eagles schedule for me and tell me when the reckoning is coming for this team if it's not this week?
Week 9.
Wow. You think it's going to be that long before there really is a have to deal with the
Jets on the road. Jets on the road isn't. I forgot about the Dolphins game. Never mind.
That's in Philly.
Yeah.
It's prime time. 2 under the lights.
All right, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm looking forward to that Cowboys game. They have such a nasty stretch here, though. Like, if you want a Cowboys future, if you want a Detroit Lions future, your time is coming soon because the Eagles within 5 weeks, the Eagles will be 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and we talked about this a lot in the preview pod. The Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers, and the Cowboys again. And honestly, like playing the Seahawks in Seattle in a late game in December.
At the Commies, who you struggled with?
The Commies have been kind of their bugaboo lately for the last couple of years too. So you should beat the Rams, you should beat the Jets. They're both road games,
and then all hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks loose, and thank God, your last 3 games are Giants, Cards, Giants. That's
how you get into the wild card.
Man, what if the Cardinals start winning some games? Kyler's gonna play.
Yeah.
I don't know. I expect the Eagles to look well until some of that. I think we're fine the next 2 weeks, but man, that stretch is rough. And I really don't think that Cowboys game is a great matchup, depending on how healthy everybody is.
Yep. All right. Jets, Denver.
It's kind of lines up for when the Cowboys offensive line should be fully healthy too.
Yeah, right. Jets, Denver is an interesting one. I think you can sell high on the maybe Zach Wilson doesn't suck buzz. And I think Justin Simmons is going to play. I fucking hope he plays. If he doesn't, then I'm basically grading this a loss. The Broncos defense with Simmons without him is obviously 2 very, very different animals. And Broncos in general seem to have solved most of the problems with the offense to the tune of they should score into the 20s here. I know the Jets defense is amazing, but Broncos match up fairly well. So best of luck to the Jets at altitude. I think that the Broncos D is going to be much, much, much improved here. So I laid the 1.5 points. Thoughts?
Didn't love this game. Once I started digging in, I hate it. Weakness on weakness. When you have weakness on weakness, sometimes it comes down to a wrinkle in the coaching. And I'll go back again to the Seattle game from last week versus the Giants. True weakness on weakness. You had a beat-up offensive line. You're missing your star running back. You don't have good wide receivers. You don't have the ability or appetite to use Darren Waller. Your quarterback is struggling outside of some of his scrambles against a defense that hasn't gotten a pass rush really for the whole year. They had 5 sacks coming into that game, and now they have 3 missing cornerbacks, and Jamal Adams trying to work his way back from injury. So true weakness on weakness, and obviously kudos Clint Hurt. He put together a really nice game plan to put Daniel Jones in a fucking box, made him and the whole offense look bad the whole game. And at that point, the Geno Smith and the offense didn't have to do that much in a tough travel spot. And that's what I'm saying. It's so hard to predict that. We didn't. It's easy for me to explain exactly what happened after I watched the game twice. Previous to the game, we didn't mention it. We had no idea that they had that sort of, game plan. They moved Witherspoon up to the nickel spot, and he's up in the box the whole game. It's 100 tackles in the game of his life. It's hard. So when you get a weakness on weakness here, whereas the Broncos defense is bad, it's been bad. The Jets offense is not good. What we saw last week was just a few plays here and there, and they were put into some good game states, some good field position spots. Those turnovers were not great by Pat. Excuse me. So I don't know. Who do you trust to put together a better game plan? Your defensive team up in Denver or Nate Hackett? So
defensive team in Denver.
Yeah, I was taking the really long way to saying, if you made me bet this, I'd go along for the ride with you. Denver at altitude with a, probably a better coaching staff, depending on how I still think Sean Payton's obviously a Hall of Famer, guys.
Yeah. Justin Simmons, Frank Clark, Josie Jewell, Baron Browning, and Mike Purcell all returned to practice this week.
Yeah, massive. I was going to say that.
That's your defense.
Outside of Cushenberry working out kind of off on his own, the news is decent. Javonte Williams did not practice today. I'm not so sure I'm hopeful for him, but like you said, all the defense.
His replacement, that guy's got juice.
Did you
see that guy?
Jaleel McLaughlin might be better. So I'm not so worried. I'm more worried about Cushenberry than the running back. So no, for sure. I agree with you. Kansas City, Minnesota.
Didn't play this one, but boy, oh boy. You know what I did? You know what I want to bet? Pat Mahomes MVP.
You're getting a discount because of what Josh has done, and now Josh is in a tough spot. I know I bet on him, but that's not an easy spot.
And Mahomes, look at some of Mahomes' defenses he's got left, including this week.
Yeah.
Some bad ones.
This is a bad defense. This is an indoor game.
Yeah.
Don't let what other teams have done against Minnesota fool you. This is
They're going to get
this is a known. So this is a known quantity in, Brian Flores and what he does, and that's bad when you're facing Andy Reid. And I know that they've dialed back the blitz a little bit more with Davenport returning, but this is still a banged up offensive line. They have good weapons outside, but honestly, I still think the Chiefs. I think the coverage unit is pretty decent. The pass rush can get there for certain. Kirk's on his backs a few times. This is a long game for Minnesota. I don't quite understand the buy on Minnesota here at the 6. I make this 6. I make this 6.1.
Yeah.
It is a second straight road game for Kansas City, which understandably is not great. This is not that far.
Mediocre travel. Yeah.
We're not traveling to London. This is Minneapolis. I've driven this. It's not that bad. This is it's an hour and a half flight, guys. It's a nice airport down there too in Kansas City. It's not that nasty of a travel spot here. So yeah, Chiefs team total over, Chiefs -4, Chiefs first half. I wonder if this isn't, Patty's. What was the second game that we saw from Josh Allen? The Raiders game. If it was Patty's Raiders game, where hey, I wasn't great last week. I need to hone in and beat the tar out of a terrible secondary.
Yeah, this is it. I think he can have 5 touchdowns this week, no question. And
it's funny that their divisional games are further.
Yeah,
San Diego's a lot further.
Yeah, San Diego, they don't even go to San
LA.
Diego anymore. But here's the other key about the Pat Mahomes MVP thought. If you can get 6-1, I think it's a bet because number one, you're selling high on Josh Allen, who's going to continue to turn the ball over the balance of the season and have an interception number that's high enough that people want to disqualify him. That's just a reality, right? I know Mahomes has not had has he had a clean game yet? Or he's had a turnover, I think, in every, I don't recall. He's had a number of interceptions this year, but he's still good enough that he's going to clean that up. And I look at 2 games left against the Broncos, who we just talked about. 2 games left against the Chargers, who suck at defense, particularly pass defense. 2 games left against the Raiders, who suck at defense, particularly pass defense. And then we're going to sprinkle in some high-profile games against the Dolphins in Europe. You get the Broncos next week in primetime again, by the way. You get Eagles in primetime. You get Packers in primetime. You get Patriots in primetime at the end of the season. And then you finish with a nice soft landing of Raiders, Bengals, Chargers. So I think
the Bengals are the best defense. Obviously, the Patriots are, but out of that last 3, the Bengals are the toughest defense there.
They just
they might be packing it in at that point.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm not saying Mahomes will for sure win. I'm just saying that this is the nadir.
This might be the buy
price.
Ooh, I love it when you say nadir.
I think this is as low as it gets. If he gets beat by the Vikings, then I might add more. But I'm definitely betting it before this game because this is where the campaign starts. I don't really have much else to add on this contest. I guess I do worry a little bit that he finds chemistry with the wide receiving group. I think he ultimately will. He's too good. I do think that the 1 seed is kind of there for the taking for them.
Minnesota's front 7 and the way they get pressure, you're going to see it. It's last week, even early in the game, where you saw the Jets get some pressure from the outside. It's like Mahomes is able to freeze time and just plot out a path. See, it's like he's moving through a maze and he knows the answer already. When his path out of the pocket into some of these runs,
great concept.
Is so just like it's like he knows ahead of time where to go. And Minnesota is going to lose contain a bunch. Don't have the
he's
pass
like
rush.
He's like Pat-Man avoiding the squiggies.
Yeah,
What are the ghosts?
Oh shit, he got the cherry.
Inky, Blinky, and Snot.
One of them's not named.
Yeah,
one of them's not
Brad.
Lime. It's like Inky, Blinky, Winky, and like Bob or something. We'll have to check on that one. No, I just don't think the pass rush is going to do much against here, and against Patrick Mahomes, he should be able to torch this defense, with his legs as well. I'm pretty close to betting the Chiefs here.
Yeah, it's Blinky, Pinky,
also,
Inky, and Clyde.
Also, if you stick your finger in your ear and just wiggle it back and forth, it sounds just like that. Everyone should try that right now. If you have headphones and take it out, just stick your finger in your ear and wiggle it like this. It sounds just like the goddamn Pac-Man thing. It's the craziest thing. Pacheco, Pacheco out of the backfield catching balls. This defense, there's some teams that I don't understand why they haven't taken advantage of this Minnesota defense yet.
I don't either. I think we're going to see it. All right.
One more game.
Betting the Chiefs by proxy by betting Mahomes. MVP. Dallas at San Francisco. Game of the week. Probably the game of the second quarter of the season, Andy.
I'm so excited. I'm glad this is prime time. Unlike what we had last week with Buffalo, Miami stuck in a noon game. This is our Profit Exchange Sunday night game. We have a market that will be up at Profit Exchange. It will be Debo versus CD in the goofy first names, and it'll be passing. I don't want to put passing in there too. Just rushing plus receiving head to head. Debo versus CD. So break that down. Give me what your price is. If you're in the Deep Dive Discord, I'd be curious to hear what you guys make that as far as who's favored. That market will be up later this week. Mickey Hill says, my wife just walked by and asked why I'm doing that to my ear. Story of my life. Has this seen much action on the total? I haven't followed this one.
Yes.
I feel like it got bet up a little.
Yeah, a little.
I look ahead was 44, 45. This hasn't seen a ton
it's
of
kind
action
of bounced
anyways.
around. No.
So this is a well-made line, in my opinion. I don't have a strong take either way. This will be a prop game for me. I make this San Francisco minus 3.6. It is a 3.5. This total is a wide distribution.
Yeah.
This game could end up, I think if you like the over, there's a definite case for you to play some odds. Yes, exactly. Play some over 49, over 53, whatever you guys have. Just some small bets on the over. If this game starts to go, it's going to go hard. If the 49ers, if the Cowboys can sort out against this Niners defense, they might eat. CD can have a big game. I'm not super sure what we're going to do with the side, though. I think it's just bang on. I mean, did you look at any of these markets yet?
Total over. I like the alt over look, though. I think that I'm closer to 3 on these teams, so maybe I'm a little higher than the Cowboys than you, which is kind of surprising. But I didn't take the Cowboys 3.5 because I do not like how grossly the Cowboys defense got exposed when they went against the speedy Cardinals. And you know who is the JV to the varsity in terms of speedy skill sets? The Niners to the Cardinals. So if that works out well for Arizona, then I can only imagine what San Francisco is going to do here. I do think San Francisco's defense is possibly a hair overrated, or maybe they just haven't hit their stride yet. But the way the Cowboys are running their offense right now, I'm assuming it's relatively short stuff. It's high probability of completion stuff. It's not really pushing the ball down the field. It's a lot of balanced run pass, a lot of short pass, and that's working. And it should work against this Niners team. So I think you're going to see some efficient offense from the Cowboys, and I think you're going to see some explosive offense for the Niners, which makes me want to be on some alt overs. And ultimately, this should be a damn good game. The funny, weird thing is, we don't really have any evidence of how either of these teams plays in a neutral game state because neither of them have been in a neutral game other than the Rams Niners, which was even still a little bit weird. So we really don't know what the Cowboys script is. And, I guess I'm kind of excited to see what the Cowboys have up their sleeves for this game. 2 years in a row, the San Francisco 49ers have ended their season. Dan Quinn, Kyle Shanahan obviously have a lot in their historical backgrounds. I don't know if you know this, Andy, but they both played in the Super Bowl that they almost won. Or they didn't play. They both coached in the Super Bowl that they almost won.
They played at coaching.
They played at coaching. They almost got it. And there's obviously familiarity there. But again, I don't think Quinn has the personnel to really match up with the Niners offense. Brock Purdy, kind of a wild card. I don't think he's in the MVP race, although if a Niner gets it, I think it would be him, not CMC, so you can stop with that nonsense. And kind of intrigued to see if he can continue to not turn the ball over. Turnovers for Purdy would obviously hurt my over, so I hope they don't happen in this game, but they're coming, obviously, at some point.
Unless they're pick sixes.
No Trayvon Diggs, though, so I don't know if you're getting although Deron Bland has gotten 2 touchdowns already this season. Anyway, Micah Parsons is a little banged up. Nick Bosa is not at full strength yet for whatever it's worth. I think this is an over game.
Micah Parsons, was he DNP or just limited today? He was limited today. Hooker was limited. The backup running back did not practice. Rico Dowdle might have hurt his hip pretty bad. Martin and Smith up front did not practice. I guess that was assumed early in the week. We'll see if they get some of those guys back up front. Niners are fairly healthy outside of just a couple of the wide receivers are banged up. I think they're going to go. Really, their only injury was that lineman. I'm not even sure he was a starting lineman. He might have been in on a bigger package or some sort of special teams. I don't think he's their starting guard, this Feliciano. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but they do have one guy out with a concussion. I don't know that he was starting. I don't know if he was rotating in or what happened. I'll go look at his snaps, see what the fuck is up with that. John Feliciano, I was about a backup guard. But Burford, I think he might have been getting snaps in place of Burford, who's been bad from an efficiency standpoint. Now Burford's back in because
that may be an ongoing
concussions
battle.
Back in.
Yeah, that may be an ongoing battle.
And somebody made a joke about this in the Discord. I got 2 quick things I want to hit on. The NFL looking into disciplinary action against Jamal Adams for chirping at that independent neurologist. Somebody made the joke right away in the Discord, can you punish him if he's concussed? He's concussed. He's not, his mind's not right. And then, other people said it. And the more I thought about it, I'm that's super fair. And it's probably a bad look. Hey, you scrambled your brains making us billions of dollars. Now we're going to yell at you and fine you for being mean while your brain was scrambled. That's more of this is more of a NFL opportunity to say we need to get more people involved in this, making sure we're getting the right treatment of these guys right away and the right kind of support. And I do feel for him too, because that guy waited over a calendar year to play a football game after that injury. And he got in for a drive and a half. Was it the first drive? Took a knee to the head. He's probably going to miss 2 games now. So I feel for him, but that would be a bad look, I think, if they punish him for that. And then the Purdy MVP thing, the voters, the way these voters vote, they want nothing to do with him. He's not. I don't see it. He's not a blue blood top end quarterback.
He's going to have to win 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and then have a record-breaking touchdown season like Tom Brady before they acknowledge him.
It sucks because I think he has to play really well all year, go to at least the NFC title game, not be the cause of their loss, and then next year it's all right, fuck it, fine. This guy is he's a starting quarterback because he's still just viewed as such a cog in the Niners machine. I brought up Ayuk today on the timeline. Like he's legit. That guy's top 10, maybe top 5.
Amazing. Yeah.
He's so good, and he just gets no love next to these other receivers. They get all the love. Even Debo. Debo is so good. He would be the best offensive player on like half the league. And I mean, none of those guys get the love. I mean, when we're naming tight ends that were better than Laporta,
we forgot about Kittle. Yeah,
we forgot about Kittle. I mean, and yes, CMC. It does feel like I've kind of decided, and it's early and anything can happen, and CMC gets hurt a lot. I've decided CMC getting Offensive Player of the Year is kind of the path. If the Dolphins take any steps back, if Tyreek misses this or that, and the Vikings just aren't good, it's going to be hard for Jefferson to do it without breaking some records. So CMC on pace for like 2,100 yards and 30 touchdowns, man, without receiving. Like, it's so sick what he's doing right now. So if I had to call it right now, it's Josh, Tua, or Pat, MVP. It is Micah or, who am I thinking? Micah or Garrett for defensive. It's probably CMC for Offensive Player of the Year. I'll say it could be if Stroud takes a step back. There's a bunch of guys willing to step up on offense every week.
Puka's in the combo.
A-Chain's
in the combo.
Is a convo.
Bijan's in the combo.
Bijan for sure in the convo. Defensive Player of the Year comes down to a lot, but it's
defensive rookie of the year. Carter or Witherspoon.
Defensive rookie of the year. Carter or Witherspoon, and then
Coach of the Year could be anyone.
Stan fucking Campbell, man.
You think?
It's a good team, and their schedule.
You gonna bet that?
Their schedule's so shitty. I'm thinking about it. I have a Shanahan's third favorite now.
That's a way to get exposure to Lions stealing a top 2 seed. I don't know any other way to get exposure to that, and I think that's kind of where they're headed.
If they get a 2 seed, that trumps anything McDaniel did. They haven't won the division since Bush Sr. And yeah, I did. Right? It was like 93. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Clinton was elected in like 94.
It's definitely Campbell.
If they win, yeah, I mean we're talking like it was like Operation Desert Storm years, man. We're talking like we're over in Kuwait.
I didn't realize it was. I remember that we had all of the Lions.
Clinton was 92. Okay, never mind. It was during Slick Willie.
All the Lions playoffs were wild cards then, huh?
Yeah, they haven't won. They've never won this division. They won the NFC Central, which is not a thing.
Dan Campbell still plus 350. All right. Well.
All right.
Okay.
I know it's a hard buy because it's such a low number, but
better than not having anything at all there.
Yeah, I have an Everflix ticket, guys. That was the only way I could see, like, if the Bears are good and they win 10 games, like, man, they only won 3 games last year. Let's give it to him. Yeah. Fuck, he might get fired this week.
One little quick closed loop on something he said. John Feliciano, most of his snaps have been special teams. He only has 4 offensive snaps so far this year.
And then, Patrick, it's tough to bet into a 350. I think it's more of a case of if you had McDaniel preseason, if you had some other of these numbers.
Dude, there's other 350s out there that don't feel as good as this.
It's still sketchy. It's sketchy in my brains. I'm scared to bet those. Although we did it with preseason with Chase Young. Never looked back.
That's true.
Secret pod play. We got to nail one before we go.
I would zero in on Pat's under, I guess.
What was the Niners over?
Oh, that's 24.5 right now, but it's a good price. It's like plus money. Patriots under 20.5 is minus 120. Patriots aren't getting 3 touchdowns.
Let's go Patriots under. Yeah. Patriots under 20.5. That is it. Survivor, I don't know, man. I'm out. What's the Survivor play? It depends who you have left, but it's not a bad week to use the fucking Lions.
Lions is good, yeah. Lions or Dolphins, I think, are probably the 2 highest EV. Let me see.
I know that was
You
my.
might as well use the Dolphins now while you got healthy Tua.
That was my case for, I said like, hey, Shanny's 10-1, but it's not like the Lions or Dolphins have a high probability of losing this week, so he's not going to gain any ground.
No. You've probably already used Washington against Chicago, but supposedly that's the highest plus CV because there's only 6% of picks on Chicago. Nobody is picking Buffalo. Nobody is picking Philly or KC. Most of the people are out there picking Detroit and Miami, and I think Miami's probably the better of those two. So there'll be some times you can pick. You can take Detroit. You might have to save Detroit for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it depends. It depends if you're one of those where you have to pick a Thanksgiving game. That changes things quite a bit. So always consult your rules. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. That would be really good. I'd like to have like 100 likes. That would be nice. There's a lot of people. There's over 100 people watching this right now.
Thanksgiving is a rematch against Jordan Love and the Packers. Speaking of the Packers, I have nothing on Monday Night Football this week.
We really need. So the fact when you get Monday Night Football, all the injury reports are like a day late because they don't have to give them out as early. So it's tough to say. That's a big reason we don't like to talk about Monday Night Football on this one. We usually wait for Sunday night. Especially with this week, with the Green Bay injury statuses, we need to know. So we'll talk about that Sunday. We'll catch you tomorrow night for halftime of the Shit Bowl. Enjoy it. Enjoy.
Good finish coming up in Milwaukee. Yeah.
And we'll sit and wait for the NL to decide some of their series, I guess.
We got Diamondbacks with a 3-run lead, but the Brewers have 2 men on, which means one swing ties this thing up.
And, of course, Phillies just get a sweep, aren't they?
Yeah.
See you guys.
Marlins don't blow me. All right. Good show. It was fun. I wonder what Dan thought about our Falcon, or my Falcons bullishness this week. Because